Talk the walk with every sip and laugh. Coffee's the fuel, martini's the craft. Conversation swirling in the cool night air. Talk the walk, we're going somewhere.
Good morning, Alan.
Well, good evening, Leanne.
That looks like a strong martini.
Yes, I did myself a favor.
Okay, you deserve it, I think. Hey,
Thanks.
I did upload this image of my mug, so thank you to CTY, coffee cup sponsors today. I love the slogan on the backs. It says, "I identify as a martini glass." So.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to get me. I mean, come on, they should. I don't want a martini glass that says I identify as coffee. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the tagline is effectively different. So there's a challenge for you. So shout out to Matt Harris and Lauren Harris and the team there. Thanks for jumping in. Alan, how's your week been?
Oh, my week's been great. Thank you. Unfortunately, my trainer came back from his vacation, so I had to work out this morning, and I'll do it again Friday. But other than that, it's Memorial Day here, so it was a 3-day weekend. And because of all the troubles at security and the airports and weather, a record number of Americans use their cars. 40 million or something use their cars, which I love driving, but I don't know how you can do that on holidays because all the amateurs are out,
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a good time to sort of just stay, I guess, at home and enjoy what you've got. What does your training look like? Are you doing strength workouts? Do you do a bit of cardio?
Well, yes, we do. We do everything in about 30 minutes. We don't take a break. So it's aerobic and anaerobic at the same time. And I lift and we do some cardio and we do some stretching, which I learned later in life was very, very important. And so we do that combination. And, my instructor who owns the place, my trainer is the owner of the place. He says, okay, now we'll do a shoulder press or something. And I'll say, we are not doing anything. You're going to stand there and count. And how many years did you go to school to figure out different ways to count to 15? I'm just curious,
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting the creative ways I count down from 5 to 1.
And when I was with the ballet here and I was the chair of the ballet, I found they use a count of 8. And I asked our artistic director, who was a prima ballerina and one time, why 8? And she says, I don't know.
There's got to be some type of science. I'm sure, Alan, if you were asked that question, you could justify why 8 seconds.
Well, yes, I would say that 8 can be divided by 2, 4, and 8, and 1. Consequently, it allows. Well, no, I just made that up. But as you asked the question,
Well, and if you say it with confidence, people tend to believe you. Hey, we've got a few people that are joining us from today, so let us know where you're dialing in from. G'day, Neil's joining us from Georgia. Great to have you here,
Dr. Neil. Good to see you.
Someone coming in from Mount Vernon. Is that Washington? Yeah, 2 hours north of Seattle. I need to get better at my 2-letter state.
The other Mount Vernon was George Washington's home in Virginia.
Ah, fantastic. Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. You spoke about that sort of compressed 30-minute workout. It seems like that's also the way that you run your workday, right? Highly effective in a limited period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like that type of training as well. Just like get it done in quick bursts, try and get the biggest effort out of it. Today's topic is around overhead and in particular virtual assistants. Now, Alan, I just want to share, this was prompted because I think on a previous Talk the Walk, you basically said, if you don't have, if you're not earning like $500,000 or even $1 million, you shouldn't have a virtual assistant. And I had so many people, it was a passing comment from you, but so many people reached out about that comment and said, what, Alan runs his business without a virtual assistant?
Without anybody. People call me and they write to me, look, who should I talk to on your staff to get this done? I say, you're talking to them, I believe the number is actually 5 million. I think
5 million.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's most virtual assistants. I mean, if I haven't irritated our audience yet, I will do it right now. Most virtual assistants are hired for ego purposes and not hired for better organization, because most of them are a deterioration of your organization. So not only are they expensive, but they gobble up time. I want to give you a very quick, some people know this story, but not a lot. So I'm going to tell it very quickly. When I was fired, my kids were very young, and my wife said, what are you going to do first? I said, I'm going to go out and get an office. And she said, why are you going to do that? I said, because I need an office. She said, no, you don't. You're a consultant. People aren't coming to you. You're going to go to them. I said, look, she said, I'll tell you what, work out of the house. And if you get so much business you can't handle it, then get an office. And so my kids went to private school from kindergarten through undergraduate school. So that's 8, 12, about 13 years. And I paid for their tuition out of cash flow, no college debt. And it cost me $450,000. Now this is way back when, because my kids are 49 and 50 today. So translated into current dollars, this was, I did the calculation here, $450,000 in the 90s it would be $940,000 today. That's what their tuition cost me. And we calculated, my wife and I, when they got out of undergraduate school, if I had an office for those 13 years, 13, 7, 20 years, 21 years. If I had an office for 21 years, it would have cost $450,000. And so that money went to their education and not to the heat and the lights and the repairs and the secretary and the mortgage and all that kind of stuff. So if you think of the long term, you can do more than you think. And if you can't keep your own calendar, by the way, which I keep in a file of facts, and if I sit with 7 people and we agree on a date, they're all pecking away on here, and I've already got the date. So please stop it. You don't need the help. And not that I'm excited about this. A lot of you are getting virtual assistants overseas because it's cheap. And so what you get is somebody on the wrong time zone who can't pronounce the names. And I am not demeaning anyone. It's the culture that's different. So they call me Dr. Alan because they're not used to saying last name Dr. Weiss. And just because I've seen pictures of these sort of, boiler rooms where they are. And, they have an American baseball cap on. Just because you put a baseball cap on, you are not culturally an American. Right? You're wearing a baseball cap. And so they get things wrong. And some of them are surly, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You have to give it. I'll say, I can't understand what you're saying. Well, why can't you? Well, because, you don't speak English sufficiently. So I don't know why people do this, except to tell people, you have to call my assistant, check with my automated scheduler. Do this, do that. Give me a break. High tech, high touch. And high touch has to be personal. One more thing. The reason I am so successful, if you look at my peers, I won't name them, but we know who they are at my level.
Yeah.
I am by far the most approachable. You can reach me by phone. You can reach me by email. I am highly responsive. I answer within 90 minutes or a day at worst. And that's what sets me apart. Okay. Other than that, I don't feel strongly about it.
I feel like I could just let you rant about this for 30 minutes. We've obviously touched this is like a point that you are really, so this is fantastic. But I do want to share, you are very approachable. I remember, I don't know if you remember this, Alan, because you get a lot of people reaching out to you, but back in 2020, when I wanted you on my podcast, I emailed you and within an hour you responded. That's absolutely that's never happened before. Again, with someone, of your caliber. And then I sent you my Calendly link and you were very, very offended by that. And you said, call me. I was like, what the hell? I'm calling Alan Weiss. So the next morning at 5 a.m. my time, I call your home phone. Maria answers and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. See, and you didn't have to go through a scheduler. You didn't have to go through an assistant who might not be awake when you call or things like this. So what you proposed to me made all kinds of sense, and it was very important that you did that personally. I get requests for interviews 3-4 times a week, and half of them are on behalf of someone. So it's an assistant calling for someone, and I always respond the same way. And I do a lot of interviews. I'm happy to do them, but I tell them, look, if he or she is so interested in me, have them contact me.
Agree. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So we've got Andrew joining us from Saskatchewan in Canada. Great to have you here. Now, I think probably the most, the question that will then come back, I think everyone's probably really curious, is then how do you operate? How do you do everything as a one-person operator? It's not like, you've got over 60 books now. You've got a few Ferraris. What are you doing as a one-person business operator to create this?
A good consultant anticipates things. I've anticipated this question. So the idea, okay, it's very complicated. So you might want to make sure you record this or take a picture. Subcontract. That's it. One word. Subcontract. Yes. Now, here's what I subcontract. I subcontract all my graphics work, cartoons, which I have once a week on my site on Fridays, printing, which goes to one of these, like a Kinko's printers called Sir Speedy.
Yeah.
All of my tech work is handled by a tech firm, which I changed about 5-6 months ago. They do all my web work and changes, and they put up my offerings. A separate tech firm does all my AI, and so Alan's intelligence on my site is handled by another tech firm. All my finance, a bookkeeper comes, picks up my stuff once a month at my door, takes it wherever she goes into some cave, and about 10 days later she returns it. And at the end of the year, she goes to another subcontractor, which is my tax attorneys, my tax accountants, and she gives them the year-end information. This is, it's invaluable. I don't really care what they charge, and they haven't read my books. They both charge by the hour. I subcontract legal, and I have 3 or 4 different lawyers. I have a guy who does estate. I have a guy who does litigation. I have a guy who does trademarks and so on. All of my travel is subcontracted, all of it. And I use everything American Express has to offer. Now, I have a black card, but this also applies largely to platinum cards. And they will make your reservations. They do hotels. They'll do planes. They'll do restaurants. They'll arrange for any special thing in town, like a sports game or something. Moreover, you can call. They were 24/7. You can call them at any time, and they can also arrange things for you that you otherwise couldn't touch. And so that's the beauty of Amex. And then, as I said, my virtual assistant doesn't get paid. It's this, and you can see I have in here both my week and a year at a glance. And it's important for me to look at a year at a glance so I know where to put things. I don't want to do things back to back and so forth. So that's how I do it. You have to subcontract to people.
Okay, so there's many questions here I've got, and also got a question from Kevin in chat. This is again a very logistical question, just about that paper thing that you carry around, which is fantastic. Your Filofax. Do you take that everywhere with you? Like, when you go out, do you have it in the car? Because I think, like, how do you, or is it just at your office?
No, it sits on my desk during the day, and it goes in my briefcase when I travel. That's it. I'm not doing business in a restaurant. I'm not doing business if I'm, waiting in a car wash. And so now I do have this with me so I can check email, or I can check my stocks. I use this as a phone least of all, right?
Yes.
So I do have this, but I don't have schedules on here. I don't have a calendar on it. No, never. So the Filofax simply travels with me when I'm on a trip. That's it. And, when I'm down at the beach or we're in Nantucket, I go down at 8 a.m. I'm the only one there. I love to be with the gulls and I'll take calls and I'll return them, or I'll look at email and I'll return it on my phone. And my wife wanders down usually at 10 a.m. and she'll say, "Did you pay for our vacation yet?"
Nice. I love that. Okay, so I'm with you about subcontracting. So I don't have a permanent virtual assistant either. I did, and then I was like, okay, Alan Weiss doesn't have one, but I subcontract, accounting, bookkeeping. I have people that are really great at what they do in terms of producing some of my Zoom calls, which is important to me. When I was doing my a podcast a while ago, I subcontracted that technology out. So but now I find with AI, there's a lot of stuff that I can do really efficiently just on my own. And so sometimes I don't even, like for my daily podcast, technology is doing a lot of the heavy lifting with workflows and automation. Kevin asks, so is Alan saying that with all the scheduling, admin tasks, putting documents together, he does it all himself, except for maybe the accounting, bookkeeping?
There's very little of that I have to do. If let's say putting documents together or something, when I do workshops, I don't create stuff. And when I write books, I write from my head to the screen. I'm not assembling things in paper, and I can assemble things easily on the computer. In fact, Leanne, you're a good example because you put great effects together. This is all you're doing here. And you did this sizzle reel, which was great. So you've taught yourself to do that. And you might say, well, Leanne's taking her time. No, she's not, because you don't have to explain this to someone and then review what they did and then improve it. The funniest thing in the world is I've begun to create, you're going to love this, Kevin. I have very little artistic ability. I'm a great writer, but I can't draw. So I've got 3 book contracts right now, and I've gone to AI, and I say, draw me a Venn diagram with these 3 things in it. Do a double axis chart with this. I just did it. I said, draw a bandwagon going downhill with everybody holding on to the latest fad. And it draws these things for me. And then I say to it, because I'm used to doing it, I say, thank you. I'm just inculcated to say thank you. And then chat says to me, you're very welcome. Please come again.
You know that, so you know that consumes energy. Like I think Sam Altman from OpenAI was saying, can everyone just stop saying please and thank you? Because it's just chewing all of our chewing all of our energy.
Okay, if it's no good, I'll stop. But I want to ask you something now, in all candor. When you stopped having a virtual assistant,
yeah,
did you have a disconnect? Did you have trouble adapting?
No.
No.
No, but and this is probably it's probably a weakness of mine, but I mean, my process, it's speedy, it's scrappy. And so for me to have to pause and explain to someone how to do things in a certain way, sure, I could record Loom videos and everything like that. But I also changed my approach, again, with new technology and things that are happening. So it actually created a bit more freedom for me. But I think it also relates back to what you said around it's also being like a one-take wonder. Like with these graphics, it's not like I'd spend hours doing it. It's like, this is good enough.
Success, not perfection.
Exactly. That's a really important mindset to have here. And just on that note, and so if you are joining us, let us know if you have any questions around this. And you're probably surprised that Alan, doesn't have this support. But Alan, how do you deal with being responsive? Like I said, you get back to people so quickly. Emails, notifications, you get a ton of inbound.
I'll tell you two things. One is I am naturally very, very disciplined and very conscientious. So I hold myself accountable. I am very good at holding myself accountable. Other people need others to hold them accountable. But I believe in the courtesy of getting back to people rapidly. And a lot of people complain about being ghosted. Themselves are ghosting other people. So that's one. The second thing is when I started in this business, there was no internet. There was no email. And you sent hard copy letters. And you had I'm looking around. Of course, I don't have one. You have a, yeah. I don't even know somebody. You had a landline phone. And and people.
Still work?
Yeah, it does work. It's got 2 lines. People leave pink slips on your desk when you get a call. And so because of that, I was personally very responsive because it was hard to get to people. So I didn't want to miss a call. If somebody said, I'm here this morning, bang, I get back to them right away. So it gave me that kind of discipline. And the final thing I tell you is the thing that you cannot waste with me, the thing that you cannot do with me is waste my time. And so consequently, I'm sure I never waste my own time. I try to be sure of that.
Yeah.
And so I operate very efficiently because you can take my money because I can always make more money. I can make another dollar, but I cannot make another minute. And I'm 79, but I believe this since I was 29.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So interesting. But first of all, I want to call out, g'day, Matt. Matt's our coffee cup sponsor. So great to have you here, Matt.
Hey, Matt. You need to send me something.
Yes, Matt. So you got that on video. But I'm what would your typical work day look like? And let's not talk about, we can talk about Alan now, but I'm curious when you were consulting with clients. I don't know if this is true, but one time, like, what's the biggest number of clients you've had at once? Like,
at 1 year.
How many clients have you had at once?
1 year, I had 36.
Okay, so how the heck what does your day or week look like in that scenario?
In that scenario?
Yeah.
Well, I would probably leave on Monday night and come back on Wednesday. And then maybe Thursday night, I would go and come back on Friday. I tried never to travel on weekends. Mm-hmm. And I would gradually move my work. Again, this is pre-internet. I would move my work to phone instead of in person wherever I could. And I would transfer work to the client whenever I could. So I got 80% travel down to 60% travel down to about 30% travel. At one point, Hewlett Packard, which was a client for 10 years, called me early December and said, we desperately need this done. We're not even going to ask you what you're going to charge us. You're the only one who could do it. You know it well, and we have to have it by the 31st. I said, fine, $50,000. And they said, great. Now, when will you be here? Now, they're in Palo Alto. They're 3,000 miles away from me. I said, I'm not coming out there. And they said, what do you mean you're not coming out here? This is a 50. I said, wait a minute. What can you possibly tell me I will learn in addition to what I already know, having worked with you so far for 7 years? And they said, well, good point. I said, fine. You'll have it before the 31st. And
okay.
So you get into this mindset.
Yeah. Let's double click that. you telling the client, this is how I'm going to work. And that's a very famous line. That's a very famous Alanism. But also this part around transferring work back to the client. I'm curious if other consultants on this call are thinking, but yeah, the value is in me doing the work. So talk more about that transferring the work and maybe why it's of benefit to the client to do that.
I'm going to tell you the evolution here. The evolution is from you doing things and fixing things and showing the client what you've done and being there and shaking hands. This goes through more of a coaching and then an advisory relationship. Yeah. So now you're giving advice. You don't have to be there. You can be there if you both feel you should. But then it goes to a point where not a lot of people understand this till they're really in the business a long time. There's no reason to delay it. You don't have to have answers. What you need are questions. And if you know how to ask the right questions, the client will eventually say, oh my God, I just figured out what to do. Thank you so much. So, I want to get to a point, Leanne, where I can charge $100,000 and just sit in the room with the client and let the client talk. And the client says, oh my God, I just figured it out. I'll say thank you and I leave.
We all want that.
I'm closer than most.
I think you already do it I think you're there. I think you're definitely there. And so keep flying that flag. It's very inspiring for all of us that, that just holding that space for someone and letting them figure it out is actually incredibly powerful. Matt shares, I used to have a VA, found that I spent more time correcting or teaching, even with process for everything the business needed and how my life ran. Found it was easy to make my own decisions on how I spent time. Yeah, I'm definitely finding that as well. Now, Alan, you spoke about what you outsource. I've got just a thought here. What's a smarter move? What's a smarter first move than hiring? A lot of us think about business like, oh, I've got to get someone to organize my calendar and sort my emails. For me personally, I think the better first hire is getting someone that's going to clean my house. Like that is a way better hire.
Right.
Yeah.
Leanne, at one point, it was about 15 or 20 years ago, there was a big article in Fortune magazine about 12 women who had risen to the highest levels and, what it meant and how hard they had to struggle and so forth. So I began asking women executives who were my clients, what's the one thing that you miss that would make you even more effective? I asked 10 of them. All 10 said the same thing.
Yeah.
A wife.
Yes, yes.
So I think anything domestically you have to do, any of us have to do, to free up our time, we should do. The difference is, if you have somebody cleaning your house, they're not going to ask you how to clean it. They know how to clean it.
I know.
You have a virtual assistant, and this is what this gentleman just really alluded to.
Yeah.
You've got failure work you have to deal with. Matt, you've got a problem with their families when they're sick, when they can't come in. You've got a problem with it not understanding something. So not only do you do your own failure work when you make a mistake, you're doing your VA's failure work. It makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense. But what's funny about even having a cleaner is that then I want to clean before the cleaner even arrives. So that's kind of failure work.
Oh my God, that's what my wife does. That I know when the cleaners are coming. That we hear this morning because my wife cleans, and in a sense that you can't talk her out of it. So, the only thing I do at the last minute really is Monday morning memo, because I do it on Sunday to stay contemporary, with rare exception, right?
Yeah.
And I can't proof my own work because it's very difficult to do that. When something you've written, it's hard to proof. So my wife proofs it. And my wife was a teacher for 5 years, and she's very deliberate, and she's a great proofer. And so, you might say she's a virtual assistant in that sense, but she's making a hell of a lot more money than any virtual assistant would, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I agree. It's just important. If that's taken out of the way, then you can really be focused and efficient, especially when working from home. You got Jan calling, dialing in from, great to see you, Jan, from Portugal.
Jan, next April, I'm going to be in Portugal with my wife. We have a business meeting and then we're going to have some fun. This is our second trip. So maybe I can give me some advice one of these days.
Are you heading to Lisbon or down south? Do you know yet?
Well, we're probably going to Lisbon, definitely, but it's the group's decision. What this group does is they say to Maria, where do you want to go? Because then they know I'll be there. So what's the difference between subcontracting and having a VA?
Yeah, I do love Portugal. Yeah, subcontracting and VA.
Because with subcontracting, you're using regular things that arise where you need expert help, like in finances or law or printing and something. I mean, those are all specialties. a VA isn't really providing any useful extra value. I mean, they're sort of handling some details. They might set up your trip, which you can do, like I said, with American Express or another travel or another credit card company. And moreover, most people pay a VA a set amount. Instead of, I mean, if you said, look, I want 3 hours every Friday, okay, but I wouldn't let them talk to clients. It's almost, well, it is rude to put a VA between yourself and a client. It means you feel your time is more important than your client's time.
Yeah. That's an interesting signal. You're right. I've heard of people that have, when they're chasing an invoice from a client, they've created a separate email address and created this fake virtual assistant that will chase up the invoice on behalf of them.
That is so dumb. I can't tell you. You know what? I'll tell you why.
Tell
If
me.
you're not collecting
I
money,
haven't done this, by the way, but I've heard people.
Well, as I say, it's for a friend. I know.
For a friend, yeah. I'll say
right.
a friend.
If you are not paid on time, you call your buyer and you say to the buyer the following: we, plural pronoun, we have a problem because you're the partners. You don't go through accounts payable. You don't go through some administrative assistant, and you don't send a third party after them because now you have a third party talking to a third party. So the power in collecting money is to go to the buyer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, everything about this is really around, it goes back to fearlessness, right? Fearlessness to do it in one go and to just be successful and not perfect. Fearless to have the conversation with the buyer and say, we have a problem. Andy, I was supposed to say good day to Andy. I went to Andy's amazing event last night. He hosts a team building organization. They do some really great stuff. It was a really fun games night in Brisbane. Andy wrote, it would be interesting if we had a VA business owner in the house here for perspective. I find myself searching for VA services maybe twice a year, but have never pulled the trigger. Look, I'm the same as you, Andy. And like when I met, but Andy actually has a team of people. So he's got employees working for him, which might be a little bit different. Suma shares, I follow Alan because he's blunt. To me, VAs are just an unnecessary cost and added hassle to train and manage.
Well, very good. Suma, I would assume that, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Suma, but yeah, that's right. I mean, I try to be direct, let's put it that way. And if the gentleman who was on just before here, if you need a VA on occasion, what you're really saying is you want to subcontract a certain job, a certain responsibility to someone for a limited period of time. That's what I call subcontracting.
Yeah.
But to have a VA who takes care of your email, takes care of your phone messages, gets into your scheduling messes and so forth, it's just not needed. I work at work. I'm engaged with business about 20 hours a week, and that includes writing books. So you can be very streamlined about this if you don't get yourself down in the weeds. And you don't seek, it's what you said before, you don't seek perfection. You're happy with success.
Yeah. And hey, just quickly, when you respond to emails, do you do that throughout the day when you get emails, or do you be like, all right, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'll respond to emails and then I'll check it again at 11 a.m.? How do you structure that?
If I'm on vacation, I do what you said. I do it in the morning and the evening. However, when I'm here, I check emails, every hour or so because they bring me good news. They tell me somebody's purchased something. They tell me somebody wants to interview me. I mean, I find it to be fun. But at the end of the day, this camera's supposed to move with me. Let's see. Well, it doesn't move far enough. Anyway.
It was moving before. Maybe.
Here's my desk next to me, right? There we go. There's my desk. And my desk and my virtual desk are empty at the end of the day. There's never an email sticking around. Everything is empty. So when I go to when I have dinner and then go to bed and watch TV, whatever, none of that stuff's laying around here. In the morning, then all I have is new stuff to look at, which is interesting. And I think people, in terms of organization, they use email to store things. And that's the worst use of email. With email, you either delete it because you don't need to do anything else, or you respond and you do it immediately, or you file it in some relevant folder for a client or a trip or whatever. So you've got to clean things up every day.
That's really good. I really find that useful. I was going to ask you what's one habit or system, but it seems like you've answered that with, like, at the end of the day, just like clear the decks so you start new. And I think it's also your relationship to email. Like you said, I like checking my email. I find I have an inbox of opportunity. I just love seeing what's popping in. And so that can be a little bit addictive. One tip, if you haven't got Alan's system on board, you don't clear the decks. Sometimes when I have a lot of email accumulating, I'll just move it into a folder that says old inbox, and then I can start fresh from there. So I can still find them if I need them. But yeah, that's my little hack. Thanks so much for joining us today. So any final comments or questions, let us know in chat. We've had a range of people join us today. Alan Jan's just sent his details if you've got questions about Portugal, so I'll forward them to you after this. Brian has been joining us from Ireland. We had a lot of people on this call, so thank you so much for talking the walk. Alan, the next topic we're talking about, we'll set a date after this, is how to get paid to be yourself. Super fun.
Great
so we look forward to seeing you there. Alan, fun as always. Thank you so much for talking the walk with me today. And everyone else, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for being you. And thanks to all of you.